Welcome. Thanks for volunteering to be a panel moderator for the National Association of Women MBAs. We're excited today to be providing for you a 3-part podcast that's designed to help you be more comfortable in your role as a panel moderator. The podcast today is divided into 3 parts. The first podcast is your role as a moderator. The second part is preparing for the panel, because what you do long before conference is what's really going to make your panel successful. The second podcast talks about what to do on the day of the panel, how to introduce your panelists, how to start off right, let the audience know what to expect, and what we call the art of summary, segue, and shutdown. The third podcast talks about how to steer a panel back on track, how to facilitate questions from the audience members, and how to close the panel effectively. So now that we've talked about the structure of the 3 podcasts, let's talk more about your role as a moderator. You are so important to the panel. You're the ruler here. Your job is to set the expectations, not only for the panelists before conference, but for the audience the day of the panel. You provide the overall structure. Your job is to ensure equal participation, not only from the panelists, who are all experts in their field and have come to conference to offer their expertise, but also to be sure that during the question and answer time, the attendees in the panel, the audience, has an equal opportunity to ask questions and get answers. Your job is to control the flow and to summarize the key ideas and link them together so that the panel has a sense of wholeness and complete coverage of your topic. Finally, it's your job to manage the time to cover key topics. Now that you know more about your role, let's talk a little bit about what you should do way before conference to ensure that your panel is a success. First, you need to research your topic. Back to the example of work-life balance. Go online and research what's been written about that recently. Find out a little bit more about your panelists. What are their areas of expertise? Think about how work-life balance fits into the overall NAWMBA conference. If you were on the panel, what points would you want to make? If you were going to attend the panel, what do you think you might want to learn when you came? What do you think you'd like to hear about? So decide what kind of questions you think panelists should address and in what order they should address them. Part of your job is to put together a set of questions that really will help people understand and delve into your topic. Once you have an idea of who your panelists are and what the questions you believe they should be addressing might be, get in touch with each of the panelists. Offer them a biographical sketch of the other panelists and make sure that they have their email contact information so that they can talk before the panel. Collaborate on the questions if possible. Send them the questions that you wrote and say, these are some of the things I think that our audience attendees would like to know. Is there something I forgot, or is there something else that you'd really like to address? If the panelists can communicate with each other before the panel and they know what questions they'll be addressing, they're much more likely to be sure that they cover all the key points. Next, don't assume that the panelists have been on panels before. Many of them may have gone to give presentations, but they might not have been part of a panel discussion, so it's important for you to let them know how it will go. Make sure they understand that you'll be asking them a series of questions, that they'll have time to answer, and that after that time, you'll open up the discussion for the audience participants to ask them questions. You need to set some expectations on timing and structure of the panel. One time, I attended a panel where the panelists had received very different instructions. 2 people arrived ready to answer the questions. One person arrived with 20 PowerPoint slides and a presentation with handouts. The problem with this was that that person went first. She took up 40 minutes of the 1-hour panel. So when she was finished, the other panelists didn't have time to address their points. She was embarrassed, and they were disappointed. So part of your role as the moderator is to be sure that your panelists understand how the panel will flow and how much time they'll have to answer questions. Find out if they're going to bring handouts, and if so, let them know how many copies they should have. Be sure you know how to pronounce their names when you're introducing them. Now that you know what your role is as a panelist and what to do before the panel, that brings us to the end of Podcast 1. In Podcast 2, we'll talk more about what to do the day of the panel. But now you've set the stage for a really great panel at NAWMBA. Thank you.